Martha, looking to the past, says, if you would have been here, he would have lived. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking to the past. In fact, repeatedly throughout the scriptures, we're commanded for there to be remembrance in us, to remember God's faithfulness, to remember those times God has been good and gracious, to even remember those valleys in which God has led us through those valleys. And so although Martha is doing what is correct to remember, she's not doing it in a way that I would call it being complete. And so let me lay this before you. I know what we're doing here. And so let me just, there are some of you, this is your past is a real kind of hang up on the truth of who God is and the truth of who Christ is. It's a difficult question. I never want to shy away from the question, how can God be loving and me have experienced what I experienced in my past? For many of us, there's this thing behind us that defined us. It's become a type of identity for us, and we can't reconcile a loving God with what's behind us. One, we can't reconcile that he would love us because of what we've done, and we certainly can't reconcile him being loving when we consider what has occurred to us. And so if there's any kind of abuse in your background, if there's any kind of neglect in your background, if there's any type of other darkness in your background, the question has to be in there, where were you? If you're good, where were you? If you're kind, where were you? If you are for me and not against me, where were you? And this is a question that Martha's asking. And then Jesus says, your brother will rise. And then what's Martha's response? Martha's response is to head deep into the future, right? So let's look at her response in verse 24. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Now, here we've got Martha looking back on her past, all right, if you would have been here, in about an inch deep of spiritual platitudes, all right, but I know years and years and years from now, on the last day, he'll rise deep into her future. That's where her hope lies. Now, remember what we're talking about. We're saying that Jesus, being the resurrection and the life, means that the past is going to start to be untangled and the hope of our future is going to be begin to seep into the present, however we've walked in this room today. Well, Jesus is going to do that with a bold, difficult statement. The statement is difficult because it removes any notion that he might just merely be a good moral teacher. All right, it's sentences like the one we're about to read where Jesus presents himself as the solution to a problem that eradicates or removes from any of us the ability to say he was a great teacher, right? Because he's not claiming to be a great teacher. He's not even teaching a lesson. He's saying, no, I'm the solution to the problem. So let's look at that in verse 25. She says, I know he will rise on the last day. Jesus steps in. No. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Now that's a problem if you want to just say Jesus is a good teacher. Because Jesus didn't pull her aside and say, one day God is going to accomplish these things. And he doesn't do that. He submits himself as the solution. No, Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. The resurrection and life isn't some future event. It's here now, available to you, to all. Jesus is saying, I am the solution to this problem of broken pasts, shallow religious platitudes, and a future hope that's tens of thousands of years away. He says, I am the resurrection, that all who believe in me will not die, not the eternal death. Even though they die, they will live.